He didn't fit the mold, so he made a stage and then he turned it into a movement. Michael Allosso is back, baby. He built a life on presence, performance, and powerful disruption. First as a high school drama teacher, then as an award-winning theatre director, and now he's a globally recognised coach for leaders who want to show up like they mean it. He grew up watching his brothers dominate the field while he stayed quiet on the sidelines, sketching his own script. But the theatre gave him a voice. Coaching gave it reach. And his signature program, You on Your Best Day, gave people the tools to stop performing and start becoming. Michael doesn't do. He believes the stakes are high in every conversation and that leadership is a show that must be real or it fails. And that authenticity isn't an excuse for mediocrity. It's the fuel for excellence. His first episode was an absolute masterclass in living with intention. And this time we're going to go further into look, legacy, and what really opens the door to who you're meant to be. Michael, sir, welcome back to the show.
I am filled with gratitude. I am filled with thanks because I get to spend a wee bit of time with the handsome Paul Thanks.
I love it.
How are you, brother?
How are you?
So
good.
Do you know, Paul, it is snowing gently here in beautiful New England. Remember, you're old England. We're in New England. We have snow. So I'm looking at the ocean. I'm actually, even though I can look at you in the lens of the camera, I'm looking at you over the Atlantic Ocean because there's England. I see it way over there as in my little beautiful southern Maine inlet on the Atlantic Ocean. Snow gently falling, gentle snow covering all around the ocean. It couldn't be prettier.
I'm absolutely jealous. I can tell you, in original Old England, it is gently raining again.
What else is new?
And it's rained gently all day. And guess what it did yesterday?
Yeah, hello. It's not like I've never been. Your intro was stunning, Paul. I love that sentence you said, authenticity isn't an excuse for mediocrity. That is brilliant because to me, authenticity is the most important word, as we discussed last time. And you're 100% right. People use it as an excuse for mediocrity. I never said it quite so succinctly as you, because sometimes executives will say to me, because I talk about Act 1 and Act 2, which you're so good at, Leo and Luca, Act 2 is so important to you. That's a big topic lately, both here and abroad, Act 1 and Act 2. And a lot of times, especially male CEOs will say to me, oh, Michael, I'm not going to do your stuff when I get home. When I get home, I just want to be myself. I just want to sit on the couch and just let it hang. That's what being at home is. Really? So your life partner and your kids get squat. That's your definition of authenticity. So to remind your viewers and you, authenticity can only be measured by objective. You can't measure authenticity by an obstacle. So today I'm sick. I'm never sick. Today I'm sick. So I should be weeping, blowing my nose, underutilizing my energy in order to be authentic. No, my sickness is my obstacle. My objective is to give your podcasters quality because they commit the time to make themselves better. And I have to assume that probably their obstacles are bigger than mine to participate today. And when I think that in my head, it helps you to be more authentic, not less authentic. So my authentic self wants to give to them. Brilliant introduction. I may steal that somewhere. I may or may not give you credit.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you, brother.
You steal that all you want, Michael. And yes, thank you very much for joining us despite your illness. And I hope we put a smile on your face this afternoon so that you can continue your healthy recovery.
Thanks, brother.
So for those of you who watch along, if you haven't seen Michael's first episode, please stop watching this. Stop watching. Stop what you're doing. Go back. Go back. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. You must go back and watch it because Michael's story is incredible. I loved it. And it will feed into the themes and topics that we're discussing today. So please go back and have a watch through that, at least the highlight reel, because it will make you laugh and it'll make you want to watch the rest of it. Mike, we said in the first episode that you don't believe in the word just. It's not just a rehearsal. You're not just a kid. Do you believe that the right moments in life find us, or do we have to be ready to meet them when they appear?
That question, the stars talk about all the time. Yeah, it's like a mic drop question. I was reading, I think it was Streisand's autobiography where that question came up, an article with Clooney in GQ where that came up. Is it, do you go seek it or does it find you? If you start the day saying, my objective is, and you choose something that heightens the stakes, that creates an urgency, you're going to find things. And so it's almost a trick question because it's a combo platter. It's that if my spirit is in the right mood, if I'm open and vulnerable, then, ooh, look what came before me. I'll give you an example on a minor scale. My buddy Gavin, whom you know, my 20-year-old sidekick these days, who I adore, who teaches me everything. So he said, 6'7". And I said, what are you talking about? What are you saying? I said, 6'7". I said, could you speak English? And so he explained 6'7" to me. Now, this was months ago. Paul, the next week, I saw the local morning broadcast journalist talking about 6'7". I heard people my age use 6'7". It heightened my awareness. Had I not had that conversation with Gavin, I don't know if I would have even heard or noticed the discussion about 6'7". So the metaphor that I'm not doing such a good job making is when you heighten your awareness about something and you make a decision and your antennae are there and your pores are open, things come in. And so secret weapon number 13 is risk-taking. Go outside your comfort zone. The problem with that secret weapon is it's very personal. So I would tell you, if I were coaching you, I'd say, I want you to take an improv class. I want you to take a singing lesson. I want you to come do my retreat for 2.5 days in Southern Maine, where I make you do improv for 2.5 days and be creative. If you told me to do that, when does it start? That's not a big deal for me. What's a risk for me? Hotels that don't have room service, dirt, bugs. So, Paul, I was speaking in LA. I talked about risk taking. And one of the members of the group was this wonderful person named Marilyn. And she ran a travel company called Wow Travel. And she came up to me after and said, I would like to take you to the theater and to dinner tonight. You up for it? And I said, heck yeah. So we went to the Pasadena Playhouse, which is a great theater. And then she took me out to dinner and she said, where did you always want to travel? And I said, Marilyn, did you go to all this trouble to sell me a trip? And she said, no, I'm curious. And I said, it's a great question. I really love animals and I want to practice my Spanish. To me, the ideal trip would be to go to the Galapagos in Sudamerica. I've never been, and I hear animals run free and they aren't afraid of people. I said, man, and the government controls how many humans go there so that it maintains that. I said, it sounds idyllic to me. So when are you free? When are you available? And I said, not for another 1.5 years. She called me shortly after that and she said, I'm planning a trip to the Galapagos for you and Peggy and 5 other couples. I'm honoring your dates. And she said, because you talk about risk-taking, before we go to the Galapagos, we're going to go to the Amazon jungle of Ecuador. And Paul, I said, whoopee. And I went to the jungle store and I bought myself a smart jungle outfit. You do not wear a smart jungle outfit in the Amazon jungle of Ecuador. It's filthy. They put a net over your bed so things don't eat you in the night. You can't put paper in the toilet. Shower, the natives hang out a water bottle in the sun. And at 4:00, they bring it to your hut, hang it on a hook. You open a little spigot and then you run around it. And that's your shower. You go on bug hikes, photographing bugs. I kill bugs. I was filthy. I was smelly. We landed at the Galapagos. I took a shower. I got over it. What scares you? Every day, if we explore what scares us and go a little deeper into that journey, the world starts opening up and things that you didn't know. That trip was one of the best trips I ever took in my life. I was in the Achuan jungle eating bugs. I was the last one in the group to eat the bug. I know, it was disgusting. Everyone's doing it, peer pressure, because there were lemon ants. And so people eat them. So the Achuans are a pagan culture. And then, of course, we Catholics, we come and we make everybody see God. And so the Catholics came and it was from Mexico. So my tour guide came to the hut at 5 a.m. on Sunday, knocked on the door, put me in his rowboat, and we went down the Amazon River. Like, I don't know what was in that river, Paul. And we landed at this little village where parrots were flying. I thought parrots lived in zoos. They were parrots flying. And we landed at this little hut. It was all dirt. And we attended a Catholic mass. It was celebrated in Achuan, which is this pagan tongue and drums, and a Mexican nun homilizing in Spanish. This is so outside my comfort zone. This isn't my cushy little church in New England, where we have coffee and donuts afterwards. This was dirt floor, tongues, African tongue sounding things that weren't African. In fact, they were Achuan. My stupid little American white boy thing, hearing these things, it was mind blowing. That's what is our version every day of doing something like that. Everybody has something different. For some of my clients, it's saying hello to the person next to them at the airport, which is way outside their comfort zone. Yeah. But when you do, sometimes you learn that person next to you could change your life.
I think what I'm hearing from that, Michael, and that's like all your stories are phenomenal. I love your stories so much. But I think what I'm hearing from that is that you've got to have an open mind. You've got to realize the door's been opened for you in order to walk through it when it does open. And I think there's a lot of people that are trapped in their current way of doing things, that can never see themselves being anything more than what they are, and they're not prepared to even try. And that for me is really sad because, and I'll include myself in that from 7 years ago, right? Before I'd left retail, I was that guy. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. But yet, I suppose when the time came down to it, I was ready for that conversation to happen where I escaped from the retail world and got into the things that shaped where I am now. And now I'm so used to walking through open doors, and I do it all the time now. Now the door's just constantly open because I think I put a wedge in it. But if I'd listened to me talk like this 7 years ago, I'd have switched me off, if I'm honest, because I wasn't ready to hear any of that. What do you think it means to be, when we talk about people becoming who they're meant to be, what does that mean to you?
Well, you hear me talk a lot, Paul, about objective. So objective, first of all, we should define that. In theater, objective is a really important word. So if I'm coaching you in a scene with Leo, and so I wouldn't talk about plot, I wouldn't talk about theme, a little bit about character. Mostly I'd talk about objective. I'd say, Leo, what do you want from Dad in this scene? Paul, what do you want from Leo in this scene? If I took you to the theater in the West End tonight, and you got to meet the actors afterwards, and you wanted something intelligent to say, you'd say this: I really enjoyed your performance, and your objectives were so strong and clear. Oh, they'd pass out on the sidewalk because that's all we talk about, objectives. So objectives means what your desired result is. Inherent with objectives is a bigger umbrella that's called super objective. Did we talk about this last time? No, I don't think so. So super objective, Paul, means why God put me on the earth, what I want in my tombstone, what drives me. And a lot of times people haven't figured that out yet. And when I'm coaching CEOs, I ask them and they look at me like I have 12 heads. And often they say, my super objective is to make sure my kids can eat after I die. They come up with money. Usually the easy thing is to come up with money. Yeah. The great thing about super objectives is they can change. Like, you're so open. You talked about your own evolution. I love that image you said of watching yourself doing this podcast. If Paul from 10 years ago watched this, yeah, I'm thinking the same. When you said that, that really resonated for me. Would I have believed I was a high school drama teacher, for crying out loud. Would I have believed I'd be sitting here doing this with you? Super objectives takes us through that definition. So super objective means, what does Paul Banks want on his tombstone? What drives Paul Banks every day? Some people call it vision. Some people call it their mission statement. Lots of names. In theater, we call it super objective. So mine is, for example, that I want every human being I meet to be better because they met me. Whether that's you, my family, the guy next to me on the airplane, the barista at the coffee shop. I want them to be better because they met me. So once I've decided that, so if I wake up in the morning and remind myself of that, then those pores get open. The clarity of the day happens. And again, instead of playing the obstacles that are thrown, oh, you're sick. Oh, that person was mean to you. Oh, this didn't show up when it was supposed to. Oh, my team didn't deliver the goods I was supposed to. Wait a minute. Yeah, those are all real. They're all authentic. They're authentic obstacles. What's your objective? But why are you on the earth? The big super objective. And then now, how am I going to get my team to deliver the goods I need in order to achieve my objective, which supports my super objective? Am I being too super technical?
No, it makes perfect sense. No, I think it's nice to approach things from a different point of view. I hear all this, a lot of leadership conversation comes from corporate environment, right? And I think it's lovely to hear similar ideas and ideology, but addressed from a theatrical standpoint. I think it's a breath of fresh air. I love it.
Yeah, and that's exactly, so if you were to go study the actors on the West End, the director would say, what is the character's super? So sometimes we call it what they want. And then as you choose objectives, you can only choose objectives that are going to support that super objective. There's a word I haven't used yet, which is the missing piece. I've talked about objectives. I've talked about obstacle. The missing piece is tactics. So go back to my example of you doing a scene with Leo. If you told me your objective was to make Leo do his homework, my next question I would ask you is, how are you going to do that, Paul? And your answers, plural, are your tactics. And in theater, we say you have to have a minimum of 3 tactics to win your objective. So if your objective is to make me be a good guest today, you have to have tactical variety. You have to have a diversified tactical toolbox, because what's going to work for me isn't going to work for your next guest. So I notice you do a lot of things. Like I could tell you what your tactics are, because your objective is to make me excellent in your podcast. You care. You're very prideful about your podcast. You love it. You're proud that it's excellent. You're proud of the people you serve. So I always think your objective is to make me excellent. And so here are some of the tactics I see you do. Trust. You always trust me. You never crush me. You're always encouraging. 2, you retain things that I told you. You keep a high level of retention. That's a tactic. 3, you're vulnerable with me. You don't pretend to be Mr. Podcaster, because I wouldn't have come back for a second time. That bores the pants off of me. Lots of opportunities for me to do podcasts. I don't do podcasts with Mr. Podcaster. It's gross. It's like, I want to vomit. Quick sidebar. I did a podcast with a guy, and he was Mr. Podcaster, and he spoke more than I did in the podcast. So at the end, he had the audacity to say, Michael, you're excellent at this. Do you have any feedback for me? And I said, are you serious? Do you really want to hear it? And he said, oh, yes, I'm very serious. I said, podcast was about you. It wasn't about me. It was about you. He said, what? And I explained why. Just finish off the sidebar. He became a client, fixed it, and is brilliant now. He had no awareness that he was not being humble in the podcast. He's a wonderful man. And that's why if I didn't sense he was a wonderful man, I would have just said, oh yeah, fine. Let me get out of here. And I never want to see you again. But I thought,
Yep,
I was right. My intuition was right, that he really was earnest in his request. See, you're the opposite. Your tactics always are, Michael knows more than I do. Let me give the ball to Michael. And one more tactic, you're not overly humble. So I feel like I don't like the overly humble, oh, yes, whatever you want to do. Oh, I don't know. Go ahead. I don't want to be on those podcasts either. That doesn't make me better. You match me as a collaborator. So you use that as a tactic that we're partners in this podcast, even though I'm the featured guest and you're going to let me talk more. You come ready with questions. You don't shy away from my answers. I don't see you like saying, oh, hurry up and finish answering the question because I have 2 more questions that I have to do before this is over. You're ready to, so I would say you use spontaneity with me as a tactic. Do you get my point here? You have a giant tactical portfolio that you use and you whip out different tactics. So that's what we all need to do day to day. But if you haven't stated the objective, and you don't know why you're here, how can you do that? You don't know what you're doing. So then you're just reactive and you're playing defense the whole time. And we're both football lovers on different sides of the pond. If you only have defense, you ain't going to win.
And I think that, you know what, I think that is, you've described there the challenge of most young, not young, but young in business terms, new business owners and entrepreneurs, and the challenges I see them facing, because they worry, and I've actually talked a lot about this over the last week, is that I see so many people like I did, and I'll hold my hand up, right? The first year was about building my CRM and managing how many people were in that CRM and worrying about that CRM and how many conversations I had going and how much money that was going to make me and what the reports were showing. And then halfway through year 2, I realized that actually the thing that I've been doing all along is more important than that, which is building the relationships and connecting with people and leveraging those relationships in the right way and adding the right value to build business myself. And if you talk to anybody who's been in business for themselves more than 5 or 10 years, they all come back with the same answer. It's not about numbers. It's not about the CRM. It's about managing the relationships, the trust, and being authentic.
Everything's about building relationships. You don't have people. How can you do it? AI is not going to do what you're doing right now. Yes.
Special shout out in today's episode for our charity partners, ADHD Liberty, led by Sarah Templeton, who are part of the fight to prevent the school to prison pipeline for ADHD and neurodiverse individuals. If you'd like to find out more, you can visit them. The show links are in the notes below, and I would encourage you to go along and have a look and educate yourself on their fight. It's an incredibly important cause, and we're super proud to have them as charity partners for the MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers podcast. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your episode. No, and I'm confident. And I think we're all confident with that. When you get to that point, you feel difference. All of a sudden there's a switch that flicks. I couldn't tell you when it flicked, but it flicked. Yeah. And I realized. And I guess there's a nice point here. So you talked earlier on about objectives and obstacles. But we live in a world where we really value that vulnerability and authenticity at the same time. So where for you is the line between sharing and oversharing in terms of objectives and obstacles? Because there's a line there, right?
Absolutely. And people would rather hear the truth and be challenged by it than hear nothing and wonder why. And yet, George W. Bush during 9/11 said, no one wants to hear the president say, oh, woe is me. So those seems to be on different sides. For me, they're not. For me, they're the same thing. So we talked about, I'm sick today. How do I know you're not sick? How do I know the people who aren't listening to this aren't sick? What works for me is to always think that probably someone in my constituency has a bigger problem than mine. Either they have a kid with special needs that they deal with every single day, someone in assisted living, nursing facility they don't have easy access to, someone in their family struggling with drug abuse, alcoholism. Those 4 things, by the way, Paul, when I was locked down for 59 weeks during COVID and I never left this room and did 299 workshops and keynotes, every single day, someone had one or more of those things. So what I have to assume is whatever my problems are, they're not as big as yours. And whenever I assume that, I'm always right. To some extent, as leaders, we need to show up and shut up. So that's the one hand. Now, if I really am vulnerable today and I can't do this, I can open up to you. I can ask for a free pass to postpone this. When leaders do that, my question to them is, absolutely, I understand. I want to know, though, is how many of those do you take in a week, a month, a year? And then, of course, my next question, Paul, is if you can take all those free passes, why can't everybody else who works for you? And then when does stuff get done? Every day we're faced with a reason that we could be vulnerable. I had nightmares last night. I had a spat with my wife. She's the most important thing. I have a sore throat. I'm worried about the New England Patriots. They're going to Denver and the air is very thin in Denver and they have to play there next. Paul, this is not a fake story. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm doing a meeting and there's a guy who's on his phone the whole time. And finally it got to the point where I'm speaking about focus and concentration. So I use it as an opportunity to say, now, sir, I'm thinking that you must have a crisis today because you've been on your phone the whole freaking time while I've been speaking and no one else in the room has. So it seems to me you must have an urgent crisis that you're dealing with. And he said, yes, thank you for noticing. And I said, why didn't you share it with all of us? Oh, he said, I'd be glad to. I'm ordering Michael Bublé tickets for my wife and my anniversary. Paul, I'm not making this up. I did not make this story up. A usual Michael sidebar. This guy's a buddy of mine now. He's such a great guy. But you can imagine my reaction. That was his definition of an urgent situation why he could be rude to everybody in the room. So you see my straddling this line, all in for vulnerability. I say go for the vulnerability and avoid using it as a free pass not to be excellent, but rather as an opportunity to be more excellent through your human vulnerability. That's what I try to do. Now, I may pay for it at the end of this. I may collapse because I chose to work while I was sick. I don't think so. My track record tells me I make mistakes sometimes. I'm far from perfect. But by and large, by working through the obstacle, I'm going to get a little momentum. I'm drinking some liquid. I might heighten my need to do the right thing so that I get better. I got to fly tomorrow night. I don't have much of a choice. So I got to build. I got to keep building rather than say, oh, yeah, I'm not very well today. I don't know. I know I'm sounding hard ass and perhaps I am. Remember, Dad was a fireman. Dad never took a day off from work, Paul, ever. Now, Paul, just so you know, again, the both sides, Dad died at 58, at age 58 of stomach cancer, breathing in all that. He never took a sick day, but he left this earth young. Now, you don't get points in heaven for, oh, you never took a sick day. So you got to find what's right for you. Tell the truth. I say it's more rewarding not to use it as a reason not to be excellent and to figure out how it's a way to make you more excellent so that when the real things happen, you can take that time out. You know, the deaths, the tragedy.
Yeah.
Let's keep those sacred rather than, my toe hurts.
I remember when I worked in retail and it was tough. It was a really tough environment. And now and again, you'd need someone to remind you of exactly what you've just said. And I remember being in store one day and I'd phoned my area manager about something and I was having a bit of a pity party or whatever. And he rounded on me on the phone and he absolutely laid me out on the phone. And I went, wow, where did that come from? We're friends, because we were friends as well as work colleagues. And he just replied, he just went, Paul, sometimes you just need to get out your own way. And sometimes you need someone to stick their foot up your backside so that you remember where you are and what you're doing and get out of your own way. And he says, that's the role I have to play for you. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you do need to be listened to and you genuinely have that problem. But other times, yeah. I remember being really annoyed with him at the time. Wow, what gives you the audacity to talk to me like that? And then after a few days, but you know what? It made me a better person because where else does the book stop? The book stops with us, right?
Yes.
We've got to make our own decisions and we live and die by our own choices and the things that we let slide, the things that we grab hold of with both hands. And I think you're right. If you get rid of the excuses and the crutches that we lean on, then you're left with the genuine things. And nobody begrudges us the genuine things. But it's when you're constantly leaning on a crutch, I'm always late for meetings, it's just the way I am. I'm always rude and abrupt. That's what people expect of me. They're excuses. They're crutches. They don't need to be like that. I wonder though, because we're leaning heavily into the world of personal brand here, right? Like leaders have a personal brand and everybody tends to assume I'm talking about social media when I talk personal brand, and I'm not. Everyone who's a leader especially has a personal brand. What's the most misunderstood part of a personal brand for you?
Is that it's only in Act 1. So I call it Act 1, Act 2. This is Act 1, my business life. Act 2's waiting for me behind that door. And the mistake I think people make about personal brand, it's their personal brand for Act 1. And then Act 2, they become somebody else. Now, we play lots of different roles. I'm all in for that. I'm playing the role of podcast guest. I play the role of husband. Then I have to play the role of coach. I have to play the role of associate. I have lots of roles I have to play. And my objectives and tactics may change. My core, my personal brand needs to remain the same. And so that to me is the biggest misperception about personal brand. Your personal brand should be 24/7. Now, we all need times out, but the times out is not when you're with your life partner. It's by yourself. You go in, let me go sit in my car on the side of the road. I had to do this last week, actually. I was driving from Florida to Alabama, and I just pulled off on the side of the road, and it was a pretty little waterway. And I just sat, and I was so exhausted, Paul, that like the sickness was percolating. I passed out with the car running. I've never done that before in my whole life. I woke up, and there was a man banging at my window. He thought I was dead. He thought this old dude died. It was pretty scary. And I said, "Oh, gosh, sir, thank you for waking me up. No, I'm fine, and I really appreciate your kindness." What's my personal brand? I have to live the personal brand, and I take times out by myself. What is by myself? And generationally, it's important for us to model this. You know how deep I'm into this generation thing. So listen to this about personal brand. Gavin's 20, Kaylin, my granddaughter's 19. This experience, I asked them about this experience because a couple of Gavin's friends had done some nice things for us around the house. So I said, I would like to take you all out to dinner to say thank you as a really nice dinner. And they said, "Oh, I'd love that." So I worked all around their schedule. We picked a date. 2 hours before the dinner, the two guys via Gavin texted me and said, they're canceling because they have a lot of work to do and their friends at college are going to be leaving. And so they want to see them. And I said, "All right, Gavin, this is like 3 strikes. One, it's 2 hours before we're supposed to meet. They need to pick up the phone and call me. 2, I'm busier than they are. I have more stuff to do than they do. And 3, their friends are going off to college. Figure it out. We're going out to a dinner. We can make it an hour and a half, go before and after. They lose." So I asked Kaylin about it, and Kaylin said, "Oh yeah, it happens all the time." Some friends are going to go out with her and they'll call it's perfectly accepted. So these youngins pushing a brand that you can't really depend upon them. If you're going to go out with them, don't count on it. And maybe if they're in the right mood, it's okay. So they have to understand that those choices, those decisions they're making become their brand. So what you and I work for is to find a unique brand that's antithetical to the other people around us. So we pop, that will again be a role model if we're leaders to make other people pop. That's why I love what you do. Your job is to make us role model ways to pop. So I love that you talk about that. Did I misunderstand your question?
Answer. No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I love it. I love that you never answer a question the way I expect you to answer it, but you always answer it thoroughly and completely. And I guess we're coming up to time, so I don't want to keep this. I don't want to go on too long because we could, like you and I, could easily chat for hours and hours. And I want to keep this as bite-sized as I can for the audience, so they feel comfortable to watch the whole thing. And I want people to watch the whole thing. And again, I'll reiterate: if you haven't watched the first episode, you haven't listened to what I said at the beginning. How rude! And 2, you really do need to go and listen to the first episode because you will enjoy it. The last question I'm going to come to then, Michael, is returning back to the theme behind the whole podcast, which is about walking through that door when it's open for you, when you're presented with that opportunity to change your life. For the person who sees that door's open and they're hesitating, what would you say to them?
My favorite people on God's earth are children, because children, they open a present at Christmas and they scream when there's something cool in it. Well, when Simon and Maeve were little, I'd go to their house and Simon would be in this corner, Maeve would be in that corner. And I'd walk in the door and they would run 90 miles an hour to see who would get to Poppy first. Because Paul, whoever got to Poppy first was thrown in the air. I would razz both cheeks, do Eskimo nose, would giggle uproariously. And then at some point they would look at me and they'd say, "Put me down." And the whole ritual is over. So what's my point about kids? Kids don't edit joy. And they'll tell you when your breath stinks too. We're the most honest. We go back to authenticity. They're the most honest people on God's earth. So what if we all walked out the door in the morning as children? And I look at Teddy, my puppy. I have a new puppy he was born March 14th. I got him May 30th. Teddy, like this fresh snow that fell. This morning when we went out, it was like every snowflake was an exhilarating reason to live. And as soon as he uncovered one, he was looking for the next one. What if we took that child, that puppy in us, that's still in there somewhere, and we approached the day that way? Each moment was a new snowflake. Each moment was another gift that we could open, and inside would be something wonderful that would make us scream. That's what we all need to do.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your time again today, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Love you, brother. And I love what you said, that you didn't say this word, but in theater we call it shattering expectations. So my parting shot for your listeners, consistency is a lovely word when it comes to morality, ethics, punctuality. If I say your presentation or your day's activities were very consistent, what is that code for? You're freaking boring. So what we need to do is what you said, Paul. That was one of the nicest things you ever said to me. That you said, when you ask a question, I do not meet your expectations of what you think the answer would be. So what great leaders do, great people do, great moms and dads, is we shatter expectations. So as you're walking through that door, think today that you might not meet expectations. You're going to shatter expectations. Thanks, Paul.
Love it. Thank you very much for that, Michael. Appreciate it. And thank you everyone at home for watching along, listening along. I hope that the words that you've heard today help you recognize that door in your own life and give you the confidence to walk through it. And we'll see you next week on MarketPulse Pros Pioneers. Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head into video and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.